Hi spooky friends, welcome back to Kelly Does Stuff. Today I'm going to show you how I made a very easy platform for one of the pieces in the Carnival section of my display. And this is for Lemax Tunnel of Terror. Now my Carnival section is a bit of a work in progress, as I feel like all of our designs always are. Like, are we ever really done? I don't think so. But I did come up with a new design this year for my Carnival section, and most of it lives on my dining room table. It's kind of set for this year, but some of the pieces, you know, the Carnival kind of grew a little bit, live across the way on another table. And I haven't really had a lot of time to do the full design. There's still a lot of work that I wanted to do on that section. So one of the first things I did was create this platform for Tunnel of Terror. And like I said, it's super easy. I had a lot of fun doing it, so I'm really excited to show it to you. Let's go.
Let's first take a look at our Tunnel of Terror piece. It's a ride that kind of lives inside this rocky structure with some lava flow, and then we've got this crazy looking kraken, like a giant octopus that seems to be taking over the ride. There are other great details in here. We've got some brickwork, some tower work, lots of inspiration we can take from the piece itself. The first thing that I did was trace out the shape of the piece, and then I'm going to work with some XPS foam to create the platform. For the size of the platform, of course, we have to keep in mind, is it going to fit where we want to display it? But another thing that I really think about is what else do I want to include on this platform with the piece? And of course, we have to have room for our spooky friends to stand in line to ride this ride. Next, it was time to cut out the shape of our platform, and I used a hot wire tool for this, but this is not necessary when creating platforms. Most often, I am using a blade like a box cutter. This is by a company called GoChange. I got it on Amazon. You could also check out Hot Wire Foam Factory for options for hot wire tools. I cut out 2 of these so that way I could double the height of my platform. The next thing I want to do is carve some rock face detail into the sides of the platform here. And you can see that we already have a little bit of detail, some kind of striations and different cut patterns from that initial carving out of the piece. I'm going to use this tool that has the thin wire across the top, and then you can adjust the heat of your wire based on the project that you are creating. When working with hot wire tools, make sure you're working in a well-ventilated area and you are using appropriate safety equipment, and let that blade do the work. If you are like me, you are really impatient, and even if that blade is working pretty quickly, you're gonna want it to work faster and you're gonna try to pull it through the styrofoam. Don't do that. Just let that blade melt through that foam. You can rotate the tool and the styrofoam to create different rock shapes. I'm going to use hot glue to attach the 2 pieces of my platform. This is not a good long-term adhesive option, but it is great when you want to do things quickly. I'm going to start out with a dark brown as my base coat, and I did forget to add that texture that I like to add with a rock. If you don't have a rock, you can do some rolled up aluminum foil. Thankfully though, at this stage in the process, you can go ahead and add that texture right on top of that paint. You might just need to add a little paint to cover any styrofoam that gets exposed from your texturing. Once that base coat is completely dry, I go in with a lighter brown color, and this is the first stage of our dry brushing technique. And that texture and detail that is popping there, that came from rolling that rock over the styrofoam. And I'm going to do a thorough covering of my platform in this color, but I'm not going to saturate it. I do not want to get into all of those divots and grooves of the rocks. All right, so here is what it looks like after that next layer was completely dry. I'm gonna go in now and add some mid-tone colors. I wanna add a little bit of orange, yellow. You can do this any way that you want. We're gonna cover up a lot of these colors, but some of this is gonna show through, and that's gonna make it even more dynamic. I try not to think too much during this step because then I'll end up creating some sort of pattern, and I really want this to just look very random and organic. So I do my best to turn my brain off and work quickly. And I've said this before, but I do think it is worth repeating. There is no one right look to this, whether it's to your design, to the platform you're creating, to your overall display. We all have different styles and tastes and visions for how we are going to display our spooky pieces. And I think that that is one of my most favorite things about collecting and setting up our Halloween displays, is that you could give each one of us the same piece and we're all going to interpret that in a different way and set it up differently. So I just want to encourage you to experiment and to have fun. And if there are certain looks that you are going for, just keep practicing and you will absolutely get there. Okay, once that paint is dry, we're going in with our next lightest shade. This is going to be our lightest dry brushing with the little bit of paint on the brush, wiping most of it off, and then applying it to our piece with kind of quick brush strokes. I am going to lighten up this overall piece, so I am applying this color to the whole thing, but I'm doing a little bit of paint at a time because I want to make sure that I am allowing that brown and then those mid-tone colors to show through. I can always go back and add paint if I decide that there are areas that need to be lightened up a bit more. And for the last step in the painting process, I'm gonna add my lightest shade. I'm gonna get most of the paint off the brush and I'm just gonna hit the edges of my piece. This will help add some contrast and allow those details to pop. And for this step, I definitely do wanna be thinking about where I'm applying this versus those mid-tone colors where I was like trying to turn my brain off. This one, I'm gonna be intentional about where I am applying this shade. Once my platform was dry, I added my Lemax piece to the top because the next thing I want to do is create some rock shapes that are going to go on top of the platform around the piece. So having the piece there is a helpful guide to know the size and shape and placement of what will ultimately be rocks. This is just foam from my scrap bin of styrofoam. I save everything, and once I kind of get some pieces that I think I want to work with, I'm just going to start carving them with a box cutter. And of course, you can use hot wire tools to carve the shape of your styrofoam rocks. If you decide to go with a blade, make sure that you have a very sharp blade. This way, your foam and your blade won't fight each other, reducing the chance that that blade will accidentally slip and cut you. You definitely don't want that. Also, do not do what I am doing. Don't do your carving up in the air like this. Put it down on a surface. It will be much easier, definitely much safer. I am just carving this way because it was easier to film like this, but I don't recommend or suggest doing it like this. The scrap pieces of foam that I am working with come from a sheet of styrofoam that is 2 feet by 2 feet by 1 inch thick, but I did not want all of my rocks to be that thick. So just a reminder that you can cut them this way as well. Now, if you have really big pieces of scrap that you want to reduce the size that way, you might need some other tools like a hot wire table to do that. But if you've got small rocks and a sharp blade, you should be good to go. And my idea for this is to just have a few rocks kind of on the front of the piece, some larger ones in the back of the piece. I don't want to create a full border. I'm trying to be strategically random in the shape, size, and placement of these rocks. And of course, we've got to add some good texture to our rock. So here is that lumpy rock that I was talking about. You can also use some rolled up aluminum foil, and you can roll it across your styrofoam, or you can bang it against the piece in order to give it some good divots. When the rocks were ready, it was time to repeat the painting process. Now, you may be wondering, couldn't you have carved all your rocks, attached them to your platform, and then painted everything all at once? Yes, you absolutely could have. I just didn't do that. Now I'm using hot glue to attach my rocks. Just make sure that your hot glue does not get to that bubbly stage because that is when it will melt your foam. All right, we've got our rocks in place, but now I wanted to continue the lava from the piece onto the platform. Grab some parchment paper and flip your hot glue gun onto the high setting. The hot glue won't stick to the parchment paper, and this is going to be great for us to create our streams of lava flow. Create them in any shape, sizes, lengths that you want. Once your hot glue is completely cool, you're going to want to wipe it down with a paper towel. This just allows that paint to stick better, and sometimes it'll even leave behind a little bit of paper towel fiber, which I think adds some good texturing detail, especially when you start to go in and paint it. I'm starting with this red multi-surface paint to paint my hot glue. If you find when you are painting hot glue that first layer goes down kind of streaky, let it completely dry and then go back in with your layers. If you just kind of keep adding the paint on top of the paint, it just kind of streaks around. It doesn't really get that coverage that you need. Depending on how well you wiped it down with the paper towel and depending on the overall look that you want, one coat might work just fine. When that was dry, I added a bit of yellow paint to the edges to mimic the lava flow of the Lemax piece. And this is where I think those paper towel fibers left behind can give you a little bit of an artistic effect if you do a bit of a dry brushing technique with the yellow paint. Once your lava streams are ready, you're just going to use some hot glue to attach them to your platform. Depending on how much you're trying to bend those lava strips around your rocks or down your platform, you might need to hold them in place until that glue has completely cooled, or they'll just kind of pop up after you place them down. And of course, be so careful when you are doing this, pressing those strips into the hot glue like I'm doing. This is just a fantastic way to give yourself a really bad burn. And I'm not gluing any of these lava streams directly to my Lemax piece. So for this one here, all of the glue is on the lava stream and the platform, and then that part of the hot glue lava just kind of bends up to meet the Lemax piece. And keep in mind, depending on where and how you want to display this piece in your overall display, you could further continue those lava streams into your overall display. I love these giant tentacles that are taking over the tower of this piece, and I wanted to add them to the platform, but I did not have time to make some giant tentacles. So I'm going to borrow these smaller ones from another display. They might look familiar to you if you've seen my video on how to create a display for less than $30. These are made out of air dry clay, and I painted them, and I'm just going to add them to my platform, and then when I have some time in the off season, I will create bigger ones that fit better with the display. That's it, spooky friends. Our platform is complete. I do have a few other ideas of things that I would like to add. Some rocky steps up to the ride, continuing that lava stream down into the display, and maybe even creating some tower pillars as an entrance to that ride. But those are things that I will work on in the off season. Thank you all so very much for watching. I hope this video was helpful and gave you some ideas for the platforms you've been wanting to make for your own buildings and displays. I would love it so very much if you would like this video, share with some spooky friends who also want to make some platforms. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, I would love it so very much if you would. Thank you so much to everybody who has subscribed. I look forward to seeing you all next time, and happy creating!
Done that too many times now. Oh. Okay. Yeah, see, it is different to this building. Oh, butterfly! But it's fun. I hope they can't hear the washing machine. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Dragonfly. No, that's not right. Something was flying.